okay if I put a mirror right there?
Honestly, that was kind of what was nice thing when we wore the masks, because then if you had a face, no one could really see the face.
No.
Oh, I
Yeah, you're on camera all the time.
I don't remember to get that time.
Seeing that it's 6 o'clock, at this time, I'd like to call the organizational meeting of the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors for April 19th, 2022 to order. At this time, I would ask that you all stand with me to recite the Pledge of Allegiance for a moment of silence.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda item number 3 is County Board organizational items. The first item under number 3 is certification of members. The county clerk, Jackie Sadler.
I hereby certify that the following persons have received the greatest number of votes for the office of County Board Supervisor in each respective district for which each was a candidate on April 5th, 2022, are hereby declared to be elected to said office. There's the list, and there's an asterisk by all the newly elected members.
The next item is training on Meridia Easy Vote System. Again, Jackie Sadler.
By the end of the night, you guys will be sick of me, I'm sure. All right, so in front of each of you, you will see a little keypad. This is our remote for our voting. And that's what it looks like, but you have one in front of you. So mainly, there's 3 buttons that we will be using for our meetings. The first button is the green button. It also says 1A. Green will be when you vote yes. Also, when we do roll call, you will use the green button to check in that you are here. The green button will also be your request to speak, and I'll show you in a screen or two here. It's going to look a little different. The screen is of what we're using it for, but again, I will explain it. The red button, or the one that says 2B, that's going to be your no vote. And if there is a vote that you would like to abstain, that's when you would use the yellow button. So this is what the roll call screen will look like. And when I'm done going through the training, we will do roll call. So then you can all see with your names on there what it will look like. But it will show in green everyone that's here. If someone is not here, it will stay gray because we're not using the red as the no. So the request to speak on the software system as it is currently, it wants you to either get 1 or the green button to speak in favor of a topic, or the 2 or the yellow to speak against a topic. That's not how you generally do things here. So instead, we would just like everyone to push the 1 or the green button if you want to speak on a topic. In the last couple of years, we've gotten a little lax on this, but we really want to go back because we have a lot of new members. There's a lot more of you. So now to make sure that we're getting people in the correct order to speak on the floor, we really want everyone to use their button to speak. Don't raise your hand. Don't just speak out. Push the button. The chair will recognize who is going to speak and in what order. And this is what the screen will look like as people are pushing their buttons. You'll see right here, it'll put it in order of who is going to speak, and that way the chair can recognize the correct people in the correct order. So for voting, again, when we get to the part for voting, you're going to use either green, red, or yellow. Green is yes, red is no, yellow is abstain. And then as we're voting, what's hard is the print is really little on here. But up here, you can see where it says polling status and it says open. That's how we know that we're in the voting section. And the people's names that are blue are people that already cast their vote. Gray means they have not cast their vote yet and they're still thinking or they have forgotten to vote. Once the votes are tallied and the chair gives the okay, I will release the votes. The votes that were green, the yeses, you can see, red was the noes, and again, gray is when someone was absent. And if someone had abstained, you'd see a yellow box as well. Any questions? It's pretty easy. 3 buttons, 2 buttons, green, red.
So, what are you doing? Oh, you're not.
I'm not done.
I thought you were done.
With this system, it does not let you use the remote to make a motion or a second. And again, because there's so many of you and I don't know all of your voices yet. So if someone is going to make a motion, what we would like you to do is to say, Supervisor Steele makes a motion. So that way the chair and I both know who made the motion so we can record it in the minutes properly. Maybe down the road when I can know everyone's voices, we'll get away from that. But for right now, if everyone could say their name if you're making the motion and the second, please.
You ready now? The next item under organizational items is roll call. So
So you'll have to wait 1 second while I get back to my computer. Now you can push your green buttons that you are here. Nope, I lied. One more button to push, sorry. Now you can.
Not here. There I am.
you need to play that.
Nope, there we go. So, and again, it shows there are 20 of you here.
The next item is oath of office. I'm going to ask that Judge Isaacson administer the oath of office.
Also, in your green folder, you will see the oath of office, so you can follow along as he administers the oath. Also, you will need to sign in the middle of the form, and then I will collect the forms from you, and we will give them to Judge Isaacson to complete.
Have you all stand, please? Before I start, to let you know that Jackie gave me a choice. We'll do this 21 times or do it once. That's what we're gonna do, folks. Please raise your hand. Repeat after me. I state your name. Having been elected to the office of Chippewa County Board Supervisor,
Chippewa County Board Supervisor,
swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of Wisconsin,
of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully
and will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties of said office
discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you, folks. Take this time now to sign it,
Yes.
and Jack will let them. While we're doing that, I want to invite you all. This is called the courthouse yet by some people, including myself. And on the second floor, we have courtrooms. And they're open to the public generally. I invite you to come on any day you want, see what goes on down there. The most exciting times will be probably Tuesdays and Wednesdays, which is intake day. You see most of the criminals that we have for us. But I think it would be important to do that. Let let us know if you want to get special, we can try to arrange it. It goes on both days, full days, but we'll try and arrange what time you wanna, what you wanna see. Intake is, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but new cases are usually Tuesday afternoons. We try and do positions on Wednesday. It happens once in a while, but otherwise you get moved on, it seems like. So with that, I'll wait around and sign the, quotes, and I'll put a seal on them, and we're good to go.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item number 5 under County Board reorganizational items is approval of the agenda. So just a reminder to please use your remote to request to speak by pressing the green button. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Second, Supervisor Hall.
I'd ask that you use your
No.
the green button.
No, not for making the motion.
No, for requesting to speak.
Oh, do you want
So that
to do
I
for
can-
the motion?
So that, okay, if we're not doing that, that's fine.
I don't know.
I thought that's what we were doing. That's okay.
For speaking, not for making the motion and seconding is what she said.
Okay.
Just for clarity.
Supervisor Gullickson has made a motion to approve. Who is the second?
Supervisor.
Supervisor Hull. Is there any discussion? If no discussion, please vote by pressing green for yes or red for no.
Yeah, release. 20 yes, 0 no.
Okay. Item number 6 on County Board reorganization items is election of the chair. Before we get started, I just wanted to walk you folks through how we'll be doing things. There's quite a list of directions here, so be patient with me. First, I will be taking nominations for the seat of chair. You don't need permission to speak before making a nomination. You can just speak aloud, but if as best you can, do it at one time, one at a time, so that we're able to record those. You may nominate yourself. Nominations do not require a second. And once nominations have been recorded, each nominee, according to the board rules, will have the opportunity to come up to the podium and make a statement to the board that's not to exceed 5 minutes, should they wish to do so. If there's multiple nominations, we'll determine an order for that by selecting names out of a hat. Once all the statements have been concluded, each supervisor will vote for their selection by secret ballot. A secret ballot will also be used for the seat of vice chair. Before voting, I'll ask for 2 volunteers who have not been nominated to assist in collecting the ballots. Once all the ballots are collected, I'll read the name of the person voted for on each ballot out loud to the clerk. And I believe we did provide them with tally sheets. You are welcome to use those blank tally sheets that have been provided if you want to follow along that way. A election to the seat of chair requires a majority of the votes cast of those supervisors present, so in this situation, it'd be 11 votes. Once elected, the the chair will take his or her seat at the dais here, up with me, because it's kind of lonely up here. And we'll conduct the remainder of the meeting. Except for the executive committee elections, I'll go ahead and do those. And then we'll wash, rinse, repeat the same process for the election of the vice chair. Are there any questions before we begin? Ms. Sadler, did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so. I think we're good.
Seeing no questions, are there any nominations for the seat of chair?
I would nominate Dean Gullickson.
I nominate Jason Bergeron.
Are there any other nominations for chair? Are there any other nominations for chair? Hearing none, the nominations for chair are closed. Supervisors Bergeron and Gullickson have been nominated for chair. Do either of the nominees wish to make a statement to the board? Both of you? So at this time, I'd ask for 2 volunteers who are not nominated to assist with drawing names out of a box to determine the order of statements. And then later to also collect ballots once they're cast. Supervisor Erickson. Anyone else? Supervisor Bischel. If you could just come forward, both of you, and one of you select.
Okay, you're way too tall, and I'm standing up high already. Jason will go first. Supervisor Bergeron, sorry. And then Supervisor Gullickson.
Sorry about that.
So the order for nominees to make statements is Supervisor Bergeron and then Supervisor Gullickson.
Right here.
If you could come up to the dais, or up to the podium, that'd probably be better.
When does my clock start? Hello, my name is Jason Bergeron. I'm County Board Supervisor for District 7. I am a private sector business professional by trade. I have 15+ years experience in logistics, supply chain management. I have an associate degree in marketing, bachelor's degree in business education, and a master's degree in business administration. More importantly, I have served 2 terms prior on this board in 2016 through 2020. During those 4 years, I had the opportunity to be vice chair for the following committees: Facilities and Parks, Planning and Zoning, and Economic Development. My second term, I also served on Executive Committee. In my final year, I had the honor of being the vice chair of this board. I'm here today in front of you to ask you for your support and your vote to be the next chair of the county board. When I look around, I see some familiar faces and I see a lot of new faces, and I believe that that is a really great dynamic to have. We have that experience of, why we are here today the way we are, and then we have the new fresh perspectives, the new ideas to really kind of continue us to move forward and think outside the box. Given the number of fresh faces we have, one of my main priorities is to eliminate the freshman supervisor stigma. When I was elected in 2016, there very much was a sentiment of, we're glad you're here. We really appreciate your ambition. Now please just sit down and wait your turn. I did not walk into this building claiming to have all the answers. I still don't. I never will. But I certainly did not run for the county board to sit on the sidelines. My constituents did not send me here to sit on the sidelines. So I want to make sure that if someone has the ambition and is ready to step up and try to make a positive impact in their community, I want you to have a seat at the table to do so. I also want to touch on a misconception that seems to be floating around. This idea that someone who works full-time just could never have the capacity to be chair or vice chair of this board, and that is just false. We have had a full-time chair, full-time vice chair, and 4 of the 5 executive committee members working full-time as recent as the 2018 to 2020 term. I was there. We got the job done. We got the job done well. I really think it's important to understand that it's about how you view this role and about how you trust and support the people around you. We will have 21 elected county leaders on this board, and the role of this chair is to make sure all 21 elected leaders are in a position to make an impact in their area of interest, a position to impact their communities positively. This role needs to make sure that people are in the right place with the right tools to maximize that impact. That would be my goal as chair. Is it a bigger workload being chair? Of course it is. There's a lot of coordinating that goes on with the committees to set the full board agenda. There's a lot of collaboration with the committee chairs and the county administrator to make sure the resources are in place to achieve these priorities that have been set. But the chair is not alone designing and implementing and dictating those priorities. In many scenarios, the heavy lifting can and should be done at the committee level. I want to support your priorities, not dictate those priorities. I think really what we want to look at going forward is just making sure that this chair is a support role. It is not a co-county administrator. It is not in charge of every little detail going on. It is a leadership position first and foremost, not a management position. And we need to make that distinction as a board, regardless of who wins tonight. We are policymakers, and the last thing the county needs is another level of management. So if given the opportunity, I will not disappoint you. I will put in the time, I will be available, and I will do everything in my power to take this county board forward together as a team for the betterment of the county. I really do appreciate you listening to me tonight. And again, I ask for your support and your vote to be the next chair of the county board. Thank you.
Are you ready? Yep. Okay. I'm Dean Gullickson. I was the county board chair for this last term. This will be my 4th term in office. My background, I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice administration, and I worked for the state of Wisconsin for most of my career with the Department of Natural Resources. And there I conducted numerous spring hearings, multiple other hearings associated with Department of Natural Resources programs, so I have a large background as far as working in this for decades, not just a few years, but for decades. As the county board chair, I am here to facilitate you. If you elect me as your chair, I'm your chair, and I am the servant. I am to facilitate you, and that is my role, that is my job. Each one of you is like a piece to the puzzle. There are no freshmen, there are no seniors, whatever. Each one of you has your own specific gifts and ideas to come to this board on the different committees that you'll be assigned to. Every person's opinion is valued. Every person's value. And if I do get the chair, he will often ask me multiple times, have you all had your say? Because there is no information, any question that's a bad question. The only bad question is the one that's never asked. In my time on the county board now in this 4th term, I've chaired the Land Conservation and Forestry Committee for my first 3 terms. And I was on the Economic Development, Vice Chair for Economic Development Committee, and was one of the lead officers that brought in the Fleet Farm Distribution Center, Chippewa County. We have a very diverse county. We are really blessed. And for those of you who are stepping up to the plate, we've had outside consultants come in, and we have been able to go through the recession and now this pandemic and come out on the better end of things because of our diversity. We have diverse business, we have a diverse county. The northern part of the county is different from the southern part of the county. And so this diversity has been really a strength of the county, and I support that. And I support each and every one of you, because you're all bringing, again, valuable information to this floor. As far as what do I expect to you, your constituents elected you to represent them. And so in every meeting and in every issue we talk on and we discuss, what I hope you would do is say, what do my constituents want? What is it they ask me to convey? That is your responsibility, and never, ever be afraid to speak up and say that. I want this to be loose and informal as far as we have the little buttons that'll keep it in. But again, I really encourage participation. You have all signed your sheets with your committee's assignments. We'll do the best that we can. It's really interesting when I look out across the sea of 21, when we had 15. So we have some new names and everything to learn and to figure out here. But I have the experience. I've done the job. I've worked for the state in multiple. I chaired the statewide Warden Education Committee. I was an instructor for the Department of Justice, instructing Constitution Warden recruits. I have a network of individuals and people that I have put together across not only this county, this state, this nation, and some international. So what I offer for you is whatever information I have is free, and it's going to be open up for you folks to ask about and for me to convey to you as you see fit. Again, the board chair is basically the person that tries to keep order. You are the source of the information. You are the ones who bring the information through your committees up through the channels. There are no bad questions, as I've stated before. So I always encourage talk. Other than that, the best talk is when the beginning and the end are close together. So I will cut it. Thank you.
I'm short.
Well, both the nominees have made their statements, so I believe we're ready to vote. Please write the name of the individual you're voting for on the blank piece provided to you.
I nominate Ken Schmidt for vice chair.
There you
We're actually, right now, we're voting for chair right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. So if you just want to fill out your ballot, the written piece, the blank piece of paper you have there. Has everybody voted?
That's like that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Everybody else here?
This side is done, yes.
You guys want them to be up here to watch, so you can just watch that scrolling.
So at this time, I'll read the results off to the clerk who will record them.
I'm sorry, Mr. Paul's point of order. Supervisor Vormeyer is having a really hard time hearing back here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So he didn't understand what the last vote was about. I don't know if he can move up front and get a little closer. I'm
I
not
wear a
sure.
left hearing aid, and I neglected to put it in. I will make sure next time at the board meeting. So I'm having difficulty. It'd be easier for me if I could be closer to the front for this meeting, if that's possible.
I think we could just switch for tonight. That should be fine. Supervisor Rumar. I think that Supervisor Slater is willing to do that.
My chair.
I want out of this chair. Front and center. I can take one in the hallway.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll wait till he gets up there.
Grab his name.
Thank you.
Supervisor Romeyer, can you hear me better now that you're up front?
Yeah, now I can, yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that you understood that we were voting for chair.
Yeah.
And so it, okay. Let everybody get situated here. Supervisor Gullickson. Supervisor Bergeron. Supervisor Bergeron. Supervisor Gullickson. Supervisor Bergeron. Supervisor Gullickson. Supervisor Gullickson. Supervisor Gullickson. Supervisor Bergeron. Supervisor Gullickson. Supervisor Gullickson. Supervisor Bergeron. Supervisor Bergeron. Supervisor Bergeron. Supervisor Gullickson. Supervisor Bergeron. Supervisor Bergeron. Supervisor Gullickson. Supervisor Gullickson. Supervisor Gullickson.
I count Supervisor Gullickson 11 votes, Supervisor Bergeron 9 votes.
Supervisor Gullickson, congratulations. The next item under organizational items is election of vice chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are there any nominations for the seat of vice chair?
I nominate Ken Schmidt.
Are there any other nominations for vice chair?
I would nominate Glenn Sikorsky.
Are there any more nominations for vice chair? Going one last time. Are there any more nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, nominations for vice chair now closed. Supervisors Schmidt and Sikorsky have been nominated for vice chair. Do either of the nominees wish to make a statement?
Yeah.
Go ahead. If we could have Supervisors Erickson and Bischel come up, select a name out of a hat.
After you insist.
Good evening. No,
This is gonna be a lot easier.
turn it bigger. Hello, my name is Ken Schmidt. My wife Laura and I have 4 children, 3 girls, 1 boy between the ages of 11 and 17. We have a grass-based cow-calf operation in the town of Howard, and I have a small cattle handling equipment sales business. This will be my 3rd term on the board. I've previously served on the Land Conservation Committee, Agriculture and Extension, and have held the position of vice chair in both, as well as served on the Executive Committee and as the county's representative on Tourism Committee of the Northwest ITBEC. We have very good, dedicated, capable employees in Chippewa County, and they receive a very competitive compensation and benefit package. They know their role and what it takes to make our county government run smoothly. And we as a board should not be micromanaging them or looking over their shoulders on a regular basis. I believe our role is to set policy and be a sounding board for our constituents as one of the more accessible and visible components of county government. I think we have an excellent, capable group of board members from a very diverse set of backgrounds that will do a very good job for the next 2 years and beyond. Anyone serving on a commission, committee, or board such as this should not believe or demand that they get 100% of the time. At the end of the day, many times you must be satisfied that you brought the dialogue or outcome in your direction as far as possible and get some satisfaction from that. If you cannot do that, you need to reevaluate your expectations and priorities. We are doing many things well. I see 3 issues that we need to address in this next term. Number 1, we need to develop a sustainable method to maintain our county's roads and come up with a spring road policy that everyone can live with. Number 2, certain areas of the county, we have a nitrate issue in our groundwater that we as a community need to begin a conversation about and figure out a path forward to deal with it. Number 3, we need to refocus our economic development efforts to the north and east sides of the county and try and help our existing employers find and keep qualified employees. I'm asking for your support as vice chair for the 22-23 term of the Chippewa County Board. Thank you for your time and attention.
Hi, my name is Glenn Sikorsky. I've been on the board since 2012. I'd like to continue serving as vice chair. We've really worked hard to promote Chippewa County into a fiscally responsible position. We've worked hard to get through the last 2 years of turmoil was COVID. I like the stability that we have had over the last 2 years, just to keep the committees in line. I always respected the committees to do the work and bring it forth to the whole board, and I always asked that the board respected the decision of the committee to kind of flow the process. It worked well, and I think we've done well. We've really improved things in a lot of departments. The highway department has really gotten a lot better. I've chaired that since I've been on the, not chaired it, but I've been on the highway committee since I've been on the board. And again, I ask your support. Sorry, not running on all 8 tonight, so that's it. All right, thank you.
Call for the vote.
At this time, if you would fill out your votes on the blank sheet of paper that you've been provided.
We're doing the bucket thing.
Has everyone finished voting?
Bigger bucket.
Steal your mic here. The votes for vice chair are Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Schmidt, come on, Todd, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Sikorsky.
Okay.
I was gonna say, tell me you have all.
I have all of them. It's 10-10. The vote is 10-10. We need to vote again.
So the result being 10-10, we will vote again. Okay, try this again. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Sikorsky.
That would be 10-10 again.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was me. Sorry. You're all right. It's probably my fault.
For the third time, we'll vote again.
Different roll.
Better mix it up a little bit. Twice.
Ready? Results of the third vote are Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Sikorsky.
That would be 10-10.
Okay, folks, we've got another tie. We're going on number 4 here. Let's vote again.
If you run out of paper, I have more paper.
I have a feeling I'm going to get names in my head tonight. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Schmidt. Supervisor Sikorsky.
That would be 10-10.
Yeah.
Heavy torture on items.
Thank you. Probably should be given a couple of.
Yeah.
Can I just say, as much as you folks seem like you're trying, we're not going to break any Guinness Book of World Records tonight. I mean, it's not going to happen, so.
Counselor, yeah.
Thank you.
Vote number 6. Vote 5.
That's next time, Todd.
It gets all jumbled in your head after a while. So vote number 5 are Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Schmidt, Supervisor Sikorsky,
I believe it's Supervisor Schmidt 12, Supervisor Sikorsky 8. So you got, okay.
Congratulations, Supervisor Schmidt. You're gonna make me move all my stuff now.
No, I keep it.
Now you got out of your chair.
Thank you.
The next item number 8 under County Board organizational items. Election of 3 at-large executive committee members. With regards to this process, for process for nomination and election of the 3 at-large executive committee members is much the same as chair and vice chair, with the following exceptions. Unlike the election of chair and vice chair, statements by nominees for exec committee will not be permitted. Ballots will not be secret. Each supervisor will vote for up to 3 supervisors from the nomination list and must sign their ballot. Once all ballots are collected, I will read the name of the person voted for on each ballot out loud to the clerk. If the votes result in any at-large seat not receiving a majority of the votes of those supervisors present, we will vote again to fill any of the remaining at-large seats. Are there any questions? Are there any nominations for at-large seats on the executive committee?
Supervisor Hunt would like to nominate Supervisor Ives.
Supervisor Erickson, I'd like to nominate Harold Buck Steele.
Supervisor Bergeron would like to nominate Supervisor Hunt.
Supervisor Sikorsky, I'd like to nominate Supervisor McGill.
Supervisor Schmidt would like to nominate Jason Bertrand.
Supervisor Velickson nominates
Supervisor Romer, I'd like to nominate Supervisor Jason Bergeron.
He's already been nominated.
Can move that.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations for at-large seats on the executive committee are now closed. At this time, you may vote.
And make sure you're using the piece of paper in your folder that says Executive Committee and has the 3 lines. And please print as legible as possible.
You read them all off again.
I have supervisors nominated as Supervisor Ives, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor McGill, Supervisor Bergeron, and Supervisor Sikorsky.
Yeah, just stay here. Okay, do we want to switch spots for a minute?
I got James on it.
Well, we're not. I'm just gonna have to show it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep, got it.
So should I just announce
The three.
Harold Steele. I'm sorry, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor McGill, Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Bergeron, Supervisor McGill. Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor McGill. Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor Bergeron, Supervisor Ives. Supervisor Steele, Supervisor McGill, Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Bergeron, Supervisor Hunt. Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Bergeron, Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Ives, Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor Bergeron. Supervisor Bergeron, Supervisor Ives, Supervisor Hunt. Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor McGill, Supervisor Bergeron. Supervisor Steele, Supervisor McGill, Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Steele, Supervisor McGill, Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor McGill. Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor Ives, Supervisor Bergeron. Supervisor Steele, Supervisor McGill, Supervisor Sikorsky. Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor Ives, Supervisor Bergeron. Supervisor Bergeron, Supervisor Ives, Supervisor Hunt. Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor McGill. Supervisor Bergeron, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Hunt. Supervisor Bergeron, Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Hunt.
just want to make sure. If I'm in-
No, I think.
All right, Supervisor Ives, 6 votes. Supervisor Steele, 10 votes. Supervisor Hunt, 9 votes. Supervisor McGill, 10 votes. Supervisor Bergeron, 12 votes. Supervisor Sikorsky, 12 votes.
So the two that received
12.
the 12, the majority, those are completed. We still need a third seat, so we're going to have to vote again for the remainder of those on the ballot.
To all remaining.
Yes.
So you'll be voting for Supervisor how many times am I going to get this one? Don't vote yet. Down there.
Yes.
So you'll vote one time, and the supervisors you can vote for are Supervisor Ives, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Hunt, and Supervisor McGill.
They can.
You're only voting for one.
You're only voting for one.
One person out of 4?
Just voting for one.
Okay.
Just a minute. My steps.
A bunch. No, no, it's not.
Just-
What you get for sitting in the front? What you get for volunteering? Learned in the army, you don't
Oh, I've learned that you get, if you don't volunteer, sometimes you get voluntold.
Problem is, I never learned that lesson.
Keep it collected. Okay.
Amen.
Pictures in?
Okay, the results for the vote for the last seat are Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Sikorsky,
I think I screwed that one up.
He's already out.
He'd already been selected.
Voted.
Just take, it would just be,
If you want to discard it, you can discard it probably.
we're gonna have to discard that.
I couldn't see how that didn't know it out, though. My apologies.
Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor McGill, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor McGill, Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor McGill. Supervisor Ives. Supervisor McGill.
Supervisor Ives, 1 vote. Supervisor Steele, 7. Supervisor Hunt, 6. Supervisor McGill, 4. We'll need to re-vote.
Need a majority.
Yep.
Second.
Gotcha.
Oh, left.
I didn't see. All right. Yeah. I'm handing out blank sheets, so you'll just have to write your name at the top, your district number, and then who you're voting.
Yep, you can just use a blank sheet.
One more for me.
Take your time, you got lots of time. Oh, yeah.
That would be it.
Did everybody?
Results of the vote for the results of the vote for the remaining seat for executive committee are Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Hunt, Supervisor Hunt, I have one vote that does not have a signature on it, so it has to be, it's an invalid vote. Supervisor Steele, Supervisor Steele. Supervisor Steele.
Supervisor Steele had 10 votes. Supervisor Hunt had 8 votes. Supervisor Steele would get the last seat.
Yes, since we're one of the supervisors is no longer present, so a majority is 10.
Okay. Congratulations. The new executive committee and Ken. We're going to move into the parliamentary procedure training at this time. And so are you set, Todd, or do you need a little time yet?
I don't know about you folks, but I'm ready to call it a night here. I'm ready to call it.
I'm good.
So yeah, we're going to do a little parliamentary procedure training. Some of you may not even, that may be a foreign concept. I don't know to many of you. It's, but I do want to welcome everybody. I see that there's a lot of new faces tonight, and that's exciting. That's great. And I think I can safely say on behalf of all county staff, we look forward to working with all of you over the next 2 years. Those who don't know me, my name is Todd Pauls, I'm the Corporation Counsel. And thankfully, one of my roles is to be the parliamentarian at the county board. So for good or bad, depending on how you look at it, you folks and I will be once a month in this room, and we'll be working together for the next 2 years. So I look forward to that. We have a full agenda, and it's been a long night already. So I'm going to try to make this as quick and painless as possible for you. I've got 30-some slides I want to get through. I would say that I like to think that I have the advantage here, though, as I'm going before Randy, and my understanding is he's got 60 slides, so maybe, just maybe,
Not anymore.
I'll see a lot less, blank face than Randy will. So anyway, let's get going here. I'm not exactly a whiz when it comes to technology here, so I'll do the best I can with these slides. This first slide is it's our contact information. Just to give you a little background, again, like I said, I'm Todd Pauls. I've been an employee here at the county since 2008. I've been in the role of Corp Counsel since March of 2020. Prior to that, I was the Assistant Corporation Counsel for 12 years in that role. The other attorney in our office is Jim Sherman. He's the Deputy Corporation Counsel. Jim's been here as an employee since 1998. He served as Corporation Counsel for 22 years, and then the last 2 years he served as Deputy Corporation Counsel. And then also in our office is Deb Levins. She's the Corporation Counsel Legal Assistant. She's been with us the last, I believe, I could be wrong on this, but I believe it's been about 7 years. And she wears a lot of hats. She's the glue that holds the office together. I hope you all get to meet her. She's a great lady. So just so you know, you're always welcome to come and discuss whatever questions you have. I really mean that. I've got an open door. I'd much prefer you asking me questions before meetings than playing stump the corporation council during the meeting. So it makes it a lot easier for everybody if we do that. So my goal for tonight, with the short time we have, is to do 5 things. I want to explain what parliamentary procedure is, provide a little historical background. I won't go down the rabbit hole with that too much. Explain what the purpose is, acquaint you with some certain parliamentary procedure terminology, and then provide you with the basic concepts and information. That's the main thing I want to do, is get you the information you need to get through a meeting. You know, parliamentary procedure, you can read about it as much as you want. It goes on and on forever, but my goal here is to make sure that you can get through a meeting. So I guess I was, before I start with it here though, I'm curious. How many of you, by a show of hands, not including the incumbents here, but for those of you who are new, how many of you have previous experience or with parliamentary procedure, you know, having served on any kind of a board or a committee or anything like that? Okay, well, there's quite a few, 5, 6 of you. So, well, that's good. For some of you, this will be a review, but like I said, even I'm always learning parliamentary procedure. There's always something you didn't know. So just so you know, I'm not going to cover every slide. There's a lot of motions that I've listed in there for you to review and ask any questions that you may have on those. You can always stop by and ask me questions or give me a call. But for the efficiency of time, also, I'm asking that if there's any questions, just hold them to the end. I'd be glad to answer any questions. So let's get started. What is parliamentary procedure? Well, the Webster's Dictionary defines it as the rules and precedents governing the proceedings of deliberative assemblies. And the purpose or goal is to facilitate the smooth functioning of the assembly and to provide a firm basis for resolving questions of procedure. I can't pull it any farther. That's as far as it'll go.
This one will reach to you.
Okay. What a mess up here. Yeah. So you might all be asking yourself the question, you know, is this all really necessary? It seems overly formal. And just to kind of highlight that, I've got this cartoon, and some of you might be having that at some point, maybe not tonight, might be having that same thought. This is with the chair saying a motion has been made that we dispense with the pompous formalities of parliamentary procedure and communicate like human beings. Does anyone second the motion? I guess, you know, all kidding aside, you know, parliamentary procedure really does have a place. It is important. For one thing, it provides order to meetings, organizational stability, and it also provides us an objective basis for resolving questions of procedure during the meetings. It might not be the best comparison, but I tend to think of it kind of like traffic signs. If we didn't have those, we'd potentially have chaos, and we wouldn't get where we needed to go nearly as efficiently and reliably as we do with them. The 3 sources of parliamentary procedural rules are the Wisconsin statutes, the Chippewa County Code of Ordinances, and that's in Chapter 2. Those are our board rules. And then also Robert's Rules of Order. And we apply those in that order that I just listed them. If there's a conflict between our ordinances, our our county board rules and a state statute, we apply the state statute. If there's a conflict between the ordinances and Robert's rules, we apply the ordinance. So I don't know if, hopefully that makes sense. If there's ever any questions, doubts in your mind, feel free to stop in or give me a call. And then I just want to make you aware that there's a link to the Chippewa County ordinances on the homepage, the website that has another link to the ordinances. So you're welcome to peruse that at your leisure. Like I said, it's in chapter 2 once you click on that link. Due to the time, like I said, I'm not going to go into the history much. English, it goes back to the English Parliament. That's where parliamentary procedure originated. That was the name they gave it to the rules that they used for carrying out business. And you saw that I mentioned Robert's Rules of Order. Well, you're probably wondering who is Robert of the Robert's Rules. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. The little that I know of Mr. Robert is that his name was Henry Robert. He was an officer in the Army, and he was at one time, my understanding, asked to preside without warning over a meeting, didn't know anything about parliamentary procedure. The meeting went horribly. I think we've all been part of a meeting that went a little sideways. So, and because of that, he vowed never again to not know parliamentary procedure. And what does he do? He ends up writing a book on it that's, 500 pages long or whatever it is. So, so that's the short version on the history on Henry Robert. So now that we know what parliamentary procedure is and something about Henry Robert, let's get to what you really need to know. In order to conduct business and hold a legally valid meeting, you need a quorum of the body's members present. So what is a quorum? A quorum is a majority of the entire membership of the body, be it the county board or its committees, boards, or commissions. So in the case of the county board, that'd be at least 11 supervisors present to conduct business. And what's important here is that if at any time there's not a quorum, the meeting must be immediately stopped until a quorum can be reached. So once we've determined that a quorum of the body exists, what would happen is that the presiding officer would then call the meeting to order, and then the body proceeds with what's referred to as the order of business. So for purposes of our county board meetings, the order of business looks like this, and this is codified in our ordinances. This template's been adopted by the county board, and again, it's under Chapter 2 of the Chippewa County Court of Ordinances. I'm not going to go through every single one of those items on the order of business. There's 3 that I want to highlight and go into more detail on them. And those would be the members of the public wishing to be heard, the consent agenda, and business items. So starting with members of the public wishing to be heard, as you can see on the order of business, comments are limited to 5 minutes. Currently, ordinances allow public to comment on any topic. It does not have to be on the agenda. Although, when we get into the committee realm, there is, or in both instances, I guess, we encourage that the public to speak on things on the agenda. However, it's not absolutely required. And then once the member of the public has made their statement to the board, this is important as well. There's no discussion between the members of the board and the member of the public. And the biggest reason for that being that the board can only discuss things that have been noticed to the public and that are on the agenda. Another important point with regards to the public wishing to be heard, I really can't emphasize this enough. The county board members should avoid speaking to the board as a citizen during public wishing to be heard. And that's because county board members are at meetings in their capacity as a supervisor, not members of the public. The second item I wanted to go through is the consent agenda. A couple of things with that. Unless there's a motion that's made to consider any of the items separately, a single motion and vote is taken to approve all items at once. So you can see it's made up of the approval of minutes, county, in this case, county board chair appointments, county administrator appointments, and mandatory zoning ordinances. So essentially what that would look like, if there was one of those items that you wanted to consider separately, it would be essentially a motion to amend the consent agenda to separately address one of those items. And then the last item I want to cover here today in the order of business is business items. There's essentially three types of business items that come before the county board. There are resolutions, ordinances, and policies. And as the slide says, Chapter 2 of the ordinance requires that all business items be voted on by the board, that they must be either in the form of resolution, ordinance, or policy. Ordinances and policies require 2 readings by the board. The ordinances do allow the 2 readings to be waived if there is a need to do that. And that would require a motion made to waive or to waive one of the readings. And in order for that to be waived, it would require a 2/3 majority vote. And the way this usually goes is with an ordinance and a policy, the first meeting that it's on the agenda, it's usually just an explanation of the policy or the ordinance. And then the second time, the next meeting when it comes back for the second reading is when it's voted on. And then as you can see, resolutions only require 1 reading. Okay, so let me see here. Make sure I'm on the right page here. So now that we know some of the what and when regarding items that are brought before the board, the next step is how we get those items before the board for discussion and action. And the means by which we do that is the motion, and it's referred to as the main motion. As the slide says, a motion is a form or proposal by a member that the assembly takes certain action. The basic form of motion, the one which brings business before the assembly, is a main motion. So we've established that the main motion is how we get business before the So before the body discusses and votes it, so logically, the next question would be, what is the process for making a motion? And this slide shows that there are essentially 4 main steps to the process of making a motion. The first is that the supervisor would need to obtain the floor, meaning that he needs to be recognized by the chair. And what are we going to be doing that for the motions? We're not going to be doing with the green button, right? We're going to continue to do it by show of hand and. Okay.
We'll need again, that the supervisor will say their name and they make the motion or they make the second.
But when it's in discussion, then we'll be using the green button to request permission to speak. Okay. So once the supervisor is recognized, the supervisor would make their motion. And for example, they would say, I move that, or I move to, and which would be followed by a description of the action that the supervisor wishes the board to take. And once the motion's been made, then the motion needs a second. It has to be seconded or it cannot be moved, it does not move on. Once there's the second, there doesn't need to be any request to speak to indicate a second. You can just be stated. So once the second has been made, the motion's restated by the chair. Essentially, the chair will say a motion that or to do whatever that the motion is asking the body to do has been made and seconded. At that time, then the chair will ask the board whether there's any discussion to be had. And then once discussion's completed, then the chair will ask, is there any more discussion? And if there's not, then the chair will ask if, then call it to a vote or ask the body if they're ready to vote. And I have to admit, I kind of wanted to, just to give you by way of example, because it's always easier, at least I know for me, to learn things by hypothetical rather than just, straight information. So I came up with a hypothetical business item just to give a flavor of what each step would look like. And that was that my example is, let's just say we have on the agenda Resolution 1-22, which is a resolution to designate April 20th, 2023 as Corporation Council Appreciation Day. If we take that through the steps, essentially, if a supervisor wanted to bring that before the body, they would ask the chair permission to obtain the floor. They'd ask for recognition, and essentially the motion would be that I move to approve Resolution 1-22, resolution to designate April 20th, 23 as Corporation Council Appreciation Day. I like saying that over and over and over. And then, again, there would be a second to that. I second the motion. The motion would be restated by the chair. Motion to approve Resolution 1-22 has been made and seconded. And then the chair, again, would ask if there's any discussion. If there's no more discussion, then it would come up for debate. So that's essentially what a lot of our business items are resolutions, and that's how they look. It's brought before the board based on a motion to approve it. That's the motion that's made. Obviously, because you're making a motion to approve doesn't mean you have to vote for it. It simply gets it before the board for discussion that way. I mentioned before, the member making the motion has to first obtain the floor before, or by being recognized. The motion is not before the body until stated by the chair. And the motion can be prefaced with a few words of explanation, but it should not become a speech. And the reason that it shouldn't is that it hasn't been stated by the chair yet. So if there's a lot of talk before, and a lot of words used, you're almost engaging in discussion before the chair has even stated the motion and the board has had a chance to discuss it. Some other considerations are that only one main motion at a time can be before the body. And again, as I mentioned before, there can be no debate on a business item before a motion has been made and seconded on the item and the motion has been restated by the chair. Also, motion should be stated in the positive. This is very important too, not the negative. It's much more easy to decipher a motion when it's positive than if it's negative, especially with the votes. It can get really confusing if you state something in the negative. I would add, too, that most parliamentary procedures are less formal at the committee level, including process for getting a business item before the committee for consideration. Generally, at the committee level, there's no need for a motion to take action before an item is discussed. Usually, it's announced, the chair will announce what the item is, and then the body will go right into discussion. And once discussion ends, then usually there's a motion to either approve or deny or whatever action is needed. Okay. So we understand the purpose of the motion. So you may or may not find yourself in a situation where, even though it seemed like a good idea at the time, you're having second thoughts about a motion you made. This is where withdrawing a motion comes in. There are some considerations with withdrawing a motion. The main point here is that you can withdraw your motion without the consent of the body if you do it before the chair has stated the motion. So, however, if the chair has stated the motion, then technically the motion belongs to the body at that point. It's no longer belongs to the person who made the motion. So if it belongs to the body, it requires consent from the body. So let's say you didn't make your motion to withdraw until the chair had restated the motion. At that time, you could request the withdrawal. However, in most the times that I've seen it dealt with, it's generally the chair asking the body, does anyone object to the motion being withdrawn? If there's an objection, then the body carries on with the motion and is disposed of just like any other. It has to be disposed of just like any other. If there's no objection, then it's considered withdrawn. Some other points of consideration for motions. Some of the steps for considering the motion. One is debating and discussing the motion. As I mentioned before, you have to obtain the floor before speaking. You should get recognition from the chair. This is once the motion's before the body for discussion. And also then debate and discussion needs to be confined to the merits of the motion. And then second, you then put the question or the motion to a vote. The chair may close the debate discussion if no one seeks the floor for further debate. The chair recites the motion and asks, as many are in favor, say aye. Those opposed, say nay. In our case, that would happen at the committee level. At the board level, the voting would obviously happen using remotes. And then once voting is all completed at the committee level, the chair would announce the result of the motion. Well, even at the board level, would indicate whether the ayes or the nays have it and whether the motion carries or fails. I'm just debating whether I want to go through another hypothetical or not. I want to keep things moving here tonight. I think I'm going to skip that one. So that's how main motions are handled. There's also a number of other primary or main and secondary motions that fulfill different uses. Tonight, I'm not going to, each one of them, when made, they either modify or they affect a main motion that's on the floor, with the exception of the motion to rescind or the motion to reconsider. Those are actually main motions in and of themselves. Like I said, I've listed here, and the list is by no means exclusive, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to cover the two that, from my experience, most often occur, and those are the motion to amend and the motion to postpone definitely. Again, the rest of them seem to occur less frequently. But I would encourage you to look at those at your own leisure, and if there's any questions about them, feel free to give me a call. Feel free to stop in. I'm glad to try to answer your questions. So the first one, the most common secondary motion that I see is the motion to amend. It's used to modify the wording of a pending motion before the pending motion is acted upon. And so for an example of that would be, I move to amend the motion by, then you can either insert or add words, delete words, or delete and insert words. The motion to amend requires a second, and it allows discussion just the same as any main motion. It requires a majority vote, and if you get that majority vote, then the main motion is taken up again as amended by the approved amendment. And this starts to get kind of confusing because amendments may also be amended. So, and believe me, we've been through this one before. It starts to get kind of like a yo-yo. Amendments can be amended, but they can only be amended once. So you can have an amendment to amendment, and that's it. Two amendments. No, there's an amendment to an amendment. Now, in terms of the number of amendments to the main motion, those are unlimited. You could have as many amendments to a main motion. You just have to deal with each of the amendments individually. They have to be disposed of first. So if you're not confused, if you weren't confused before, you're confused now. I can tell. I'm getting those blank looks on the faces here. I did want to use the hypothetical. I thought maybe that might help with this. So if we go back to the hypothetical I used before, let's say that during discussion of the original motion to approve the resolution with regards to Corp Council Appreciation Day, there's a supervisor that wants to amend their resolution. The supervisor would obtain the recognition of the chair first. And then let's say the supervisor wants to recognize Corporation Counsel for the entire decade instead of just one day. Then she would say, I move to amend Resolution 1-22 by striking the language April 20th, 22 and inserting the language quote unquote every day for the rest of this decade. If someone seconds the supervisor's motion to amend, which I can guarantee that'll never happen, it would go to a vote. And if the motion to amend then receives a majority vote, the original motion to approve the resolution would be voted on with that amended language. So I think the most important thing that I wanted to point out with this, though, is that amendments need to be specific in terms of the language that you use. Specific in terms of the language you use and where are you proposing the main motion be amended or the resolution be amended. You need to point out specifically in what sentence, what exact language, and then what exactly are you replacing it with. It makes it a lot easier for the clerks when they're taking minutes so that it can get recorded accurately and also so that everyone knows what they're voting on. And this next, oh, they didn't even show up. Oh, I had a graphic on that one. They didn't show up. Oh, there we go. I see. I told you I don't know anything about technology. This just sort of illustrates, what happens when you've got an original motion, then you've got an amendment, and then you've potentially got an amendment of an amendment. I am not going to, like I said, I'm not going to cover the motion to reconsider that one, or to lay on the table, or to postpone indefinitely. But I am going to cover the motion to postpone definitely. This one, I think the chair would agree. We've seen it occurs now and then. It requires a majority vote. And essentially, it's a motion by which a pending question or matter can be delayed. It's used when the mover wants the membership to have more time to consider the question under discussion to a definite time or day and have it come up for further discussion. And it must be to a time specific. It's kind of like amending. You need to be clear on when you're making a motion to postpone to. So it has to be a definite day, meeting, hour, until after a certain event. And like I said, just making simply a motion to postpone is out of order. It has to be way more specific than that. Using our resolution as an example, let's say that the amendment to delete the words April 20th, 2023 and inserting every day for the rest of this decade was approved. So at this time, we have before the body of the main motion as amended, but there's a supervisor who believes that, wait a minute here, we're going to be appreciating the Corporation Counsel every day for the entire decade. Maybe we need to think about this a little bit and do some research and have more discussion on what the implications of the county may be of designating that day for the rest of the decade. If that were the case, then the supervisor could make the motion to postpone consideration of the motion. It would be stated somewhat in this fashion. Motion to postpone consideration of the motion to approve Resolution 1-22 as amended. And then, for example, to the next county board meeting in May. So. I'm not going to cover the motion to rescind. or to move the previous question. I want to, however, cover decorum in debate. These are real important. They're important to the efficiency of the meetings, to making sure that there's order to our meetings. It's really important that the members conduct themselves in an appropriate fashion. So this slide covers a few of those considerations. Members should make sure to refrain from attacking a member's motives. Make sure that you're speaking to the merits of the motion. Always maintain a courteous tone. And this is a big one, is to address remarks to the chair. When you're making remarks, always be looking at the chair in terms of your remarks rather than the individual that made the motion. And another big one, I can't emphasize this enough. I mean, look, sometimes it happens. Calling someone by their first name slips out. It's not as important at the committee level as it is at the county board level, but it's a sign of respect. So the best we can, let's try to use titles, refer to everybody as supervisor in their last name. It's a sign of respect, and it's frankly, it's really important with us going to the county board going up to 21. There's several of us that have the same names, so that can get confusing for calling everybody. We don't know who's talking to who. So, and then one other thing is that remarks should be relevant to the motion and shouldn't bring issues into the discussion that aren't related. Again, it goes back to if the item that's been agenda'd, we're having discussion about that, we shouldn't be bringing in something else that isn't related to that agenda item because it hasn't been noticed to the public. It hasn't, it's not on the agenda. And then decorum of the chair, this is also important. And again, it goes to the efficiency of the meetings. The way what I liken it to, and maybe this isn't the best comparison either, but the chair's kind of like the maestro of the orchestra. His job is to keep things moving and orderly. And as such, there's some important considerations on how the chair should conduct himself during the meeting. And one of those is that the chair should not speak in debate. Again, a little less formal at the committee level because of the smaller size of the body at the committee level. Sometimes that input is needed. But in most cases, especially at the board level, if the chair wishes to enter the debate on the merits of an agenda item, he or she should relinquish his or her position as the chair to the vice chair. And this is key until after the agenda item is voted upon by the body. So not just after discussion, you have to wait until it's been voted upon. And the other thing is the chair needs to keep the body on task. If people are starting to stray away from, the agenda item in terms of the discussion, it's the job of the chair to get everybody back on the right foot. Then just quickly, just some miscellaneous considerations I had. And the first one is, again, as you remember, this is the consent agenda is part of the order of business. With regards to the consent agenda, all items are normally approved in one motion due to the voluminous, repetitive / routine nature of each item. And as I mentioned before, if one of you disagrees or you wish to consider any individual consent agenda item separately, the member needs to make a motion to that effect, essentially a motion to amend the consent agenda to separately consider one of those items. The next one is again, no, I'm not going to cover public wishing to be heard. Closed sessions I'll cover more on Thursday with I have a presentation on open meetings law and public records law, so we'll cover closed sessions then. The one I did want to cover is this one, the communication items. No, I'm sorry, it's the future agenda items. With regards to the future agenda items, as you can see, a member may move or request at the committee level anyway, to include a certain issue or item on a future agenda. It's important to keep in mind, though, that discussion may not be had on the issue or item during the meeting in which it's being moved or requested. And the reason for that, as I've mentioned with other things, is that items need to be properly noticed to the public before they can be discussed. So you just essentially need, if there's something that you want to talk about at the next meeting, give an idea of what the subject is and just leave it at that. We don't want to get into a situation where there's discussion about something that's not on the agenda. And then I just want to see if there's anything else that on that one. I'm not going to get into code of ethics tonight. As you can see, I've listed several of there's the county ordinance where the code of ethics, the county board is located in chapter 2. And then there's also Wisconsin statutes that are involved in that. I think the main point of the code of ethics is that in carrying out your responsibilities as elected officials, that the public has to be in your paramount interest in everything you do. That's essentially what the code of ethics boils down to. So, again, I'm not going to go through that tonight. In terms of questions on parliamentary procedure, again, you can see I've highlighted this and it's in caps. Please, please, please come to my office with any specific questions you may have about parliamentary procedure. My door is always open. Well, almost. Today it wasn't because I was cramming for this, but all other days it's open. And even a bigger thing is don't wait to seek answers to particular questions at the meeting itself. I know it's not always possible. There's something that'll come up right before the meeting you'll realize or whatever. That's fine. We can deal with it during the meeting. But if at all possible, come see me. Give me a call, send me an email, whatever your question was. And the reason I ask for that is that generally trying to answer these questions in the heat of the moment in a county board meeting, it's not the most efficient use of everybody's time. And frankly, you're not likely to come up with as good of an answer potentially as if I have time to look at it. And it can help inform you before you go into a county board meeting. So again, like I said, if I know ahead of time, I can often resolve the issues and provide the most thorough answer to a particular question. So really can't stress that enough. And I really look forward to, I don't get a chance outside of the meetings to see some of you. So anytime, I have that opportunity, I welcome it. Anybody have questions comments or concerns?
None?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda. Item number 5, approval of the minutes. At this time, I would seek a motion to approve the consent agenda.
You'll make a motion to approve.
Supervisor Steele makes motion to approve. Is there a second?
Supervisor Erickson seconds.
Supervisor Erickson seconds. Okay. Now we will go to our little pads. And the green is for the yes, the red is for no. Those in favor, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no. You may release.
16 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstain.
Okay. Consent agenda is approved. Members of the public wishing to be heard. Bob Sorsky.
Good evening. I'm only going to take 3 minutes to talk to you. I'm personally responsible for causing the massive amount of votes for vice chair. So my address was listed up there, and send me my hate mail after I leave. But my name is Bob Swartzy, and I was elected in District 9 to be here on the county board for reasons that recently, I guess, came to light yesterday, and I wanted to be here tonight to thank all of you who called me after I got elected. That was phenomenally appreciated, and it's another reason why when I relocated 32 years ago from West Central Minnesota, that this is where I stayed, and it feels like home, much like home. So I appreciate all of those kind of words. And somebody, actually a couple people, asked my wife and I to come for coffee on a Saturday morning, so I'm going to take them up on that, and also a lunch. So, but I want to leave you with 2 things so you can hear right from my own mouth and my own voice. The reason that I ended up resigning sometime before noon today, because there are 2 statutes that go into play in my particular situation. I think all of us, as residents here. One is the ethical piece that Corp Counsel just talked about. Another one has to do with, there's a criminal piece, and that was alluded to as well. There's a criminal statute, and by sitting actually in that chair, I could expose myself to a criminal or risk or a threat of a criminal issue, because my firm, my company, does work for not only this county but many counties, and I've practiced or worked on projects from Kansas and Wyoming all the way out to the state of Virginia and Maryland. So I've been involved in government in some way, shape, or form for 32 years. I was a little bit shocked yesterday myself, even with my experience, to find out that I could probably not even sit on any committees. Had I known that, I apologize again for wasting your time here or my constituents. For those of you who don't know me, I've been on the Town of Wheaton board on and off for 7 years, 2 years as the chair. And so this whole episode has been extremely tough for me. One last thought that I want to leave you with. Working in all of the different states and municipalities, most of my work has been with county boards and city councils. I will tell you without hesitation that everybody out there in your situation is competing for the same federal dollars, the same state dollars, the same residents, the same tourists, the same infrastructure. And you're going to be stronger together than you are going to be when you're fractionalized. So the minute you can wrap your brain around that, particularly in this day and time, if you don't wrap your head around that soon, and I don't want to pit county against county, but you need to be stronger together than you are fractionalized apart. So that'll be my last parting thought. I am selling the shares of my company, coincidentally, in January of this year, but I won't get down to the 2% threshold for about 10 years when I'm 66 and a half, and maybe I'll see some of you at that particular point in time. But anyway, thanks for listening to me, and I apologize again for any interruption I caused you personally here tonight and extended the meeting too long, and I hope to see some of you again. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We will move on to business item. We'll go to 1222, resolution designating temporary no parking zone in town of Arthur.
Resolution 12-22, resolution designating temporary no parking zones in the town of Arthur. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to statute 58-35D of the Chippewa County Code of Ordinances, the County Board of Supervisors designates the following roadways, including all of the public right-of-ways adjacent thereto, as temporary no parking zones for the period from June 21st, 2022 through July 18th, 2022, to wit: 1 County Trunk Highway S from the intersection of County Trunk Highway K, thence east 2.5 miles, town of Arthur, Chippewa County, Wisconsin. 2, both sides of County Highway K, half mile north and south of the intersection with County Highway S, town of Arthur, Chippewa County, Wisconsin. Be it further resolved that the temporary no parking restrictions shall be applicable for all 24 hours of each day for all of the above described roadways. And be it further resolved that should the COVID-19 pandemic require rescheduling of Country Fest and/or Rock Fest, the Highway Department is authorized to establish the above no parking zones for the dates in 2022 that will accommodate the rescheduling as necessary to ensure the safety of all involved. And be it further resolved that the Highway Commissioner shall be responsible to erect all official traffic signs consistent with this resolution as required to comply with local and state laws. Forwarded to the County Board by the Legal and Law Enforcement Committee.
Okay, at this time, I would seek a motion to approve.
Supervisor Hunt, is that motion approved?
Okay, Supervisor Hunt makes motion to approve. Is there a second?
Supervisor Slater, seconds.
Supervisor Flater seconds. Okay, discussion.
Good evening. I'm Randy Schultz. I'm the county administrator. I'll be back up here for my riveting presentation shortly, but just to let you know that typically this is how it runs, and I'll normally introduce the department head that's going to come up, which will be Brian Kelly, our highway commissioner, for these next 2 items. Sometimes I'll have something to say, sometimes I'll just do the introduction. So at this time, Brian Kelly will come up and talk about the resolution and then stay up here for the ordinance one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we just did this nice, easy one tonight to give you guys a chance at seeing what a resolution and ordinance look like. But I'm Brian Kelly, Chippewa County Highway Commissioner. This resolution is pretty much a formality every year. We do this to keep the cars off of Highway S mainly, also off of Highway K. I'm not personally going to install all these traffic signs, but my staff will. And it keeps things moving safely out there, allows the emergency vehicles to get in and out. I suspect there may have been some problems before I got here because they've been doing this resolution for a long time. So, yeah, things work really well out there with them and their parking on site. So keeping the cars off of Highway S and Highway K is really the best thing we can do.
Okay. Questions from the board?
There's a question, sorry.
Got to look at who's where now. Supervisor Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to mention that I thought it was a smart idea to put lines 40 through 43 in there in the event that things do need to be rescheduled, so, good call and looking forward on that, so, yeah, appreciate that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, we will then move on for the vote. Those wishing to approve would press the green button for an aye, and those to disapprove would press the red button for a nay. Red release.
17 yes, 0 no.
Okay, resolution passes. Okay, then we will move on to 122 ordinance to amend section 5839 of the Chippewa County Code of Ordinances. Second reading for instruction purposes. If this was a first reading, we wouldn't be voting on it. But since it's a second reading, then we will be voting on it. So go ahead, Mr. Kelly. We will then, I will seek a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Supervisor Steele makes motion approve. Is there a second?
Second.
McGill seconds. Supervisor McGill. Okay, discussion.
Okay, well, Randy asked me to give a little bit of background on the ATV process in our county because it's pretty unique. Back in 2017 and 18, we're getting a lot of requests for ATV routes in the county, and there wasn't a good system for evaluating which ones we approved. So we sat down with a bunch of different stakeholders in the ATV clubs and sheriff's department, highway, and municipal officials, and we came up with this system of scoring the route applications. And so what I'll go through in a minute is how this particular route scored. But basically the process, and this is all on our website, the Highway Department website, the applicants submit a route application for a single route by August 31st. And that allows it to be approved this time of year with the goal of getting the signs up in time for the summer. The application fee was initially set at $200, and the board did change that later to make it $100 for an application. And so for an application to be considered complete, you have to have a resident notification letter sent out to all the property owners on the route. And you have to give a list of who you sent it to so we can check and see, make sure everybody got it that would have an interest in the noise complaints and different things like that. So in this case, the resident notification letter was sent to all the residents along the route. They have to try and look at alternative routes to see if there's a better way to go on a trail or different way than going on a county highway, and have some justification why they need to go on the county highway. And then with the scoring, we look at truck volumes, we look at sight distance. We actually physically go out there and measure the sight distance with two vehicles and how far we can see each other from one to the other. We look at the speed limit, the narrowest width of the roadway or bridges on the route. Functional classification is another thing we look at. There's a map that the DOT functionally classifies all our roads. So we have arterials, collectors, and local roads. And we look at the traffic volume, of course. We try not to have really long routes, so the length of the route is a factor in the scoring. Also, we prefer routes that are close to public trails. This particular route isn't extremely close to a public trail, but that wasn't the only factor in the scoring. So, and we also look at residents, homes within 150 feet. So, so if we look at the application for this route, pull it out here. Commercial truck traffic volumes, we had 0 deductions. Sight distance, we had 0 deductions, very open, very flat. This posted speed limit in this area is 55, so we had 10 points of deductions. The pavement is 22 feet wide, so we had 10 points of deductions. Functionally classified as a minor collector, so 0 deductions. Traffic was 320 cars a day, so 0 deductions. And the route, see, it was less than one, it was 1 mile long, so we had 10 points of deductions. There weren't any residences within 150 feet, but it is more than 5 miles to a public trail, so there's 20 points of deductions. So the total deductions is 50. Anything under 100 gets recommended for approval. So since that was acceptable, I sent it to Lieutenant Bauman at the Sheriff's Department. His staff reviewed it as well and recommended that it be approved. We estimated that it would be $110 for the labor and equipment materials to put up the signs. We spoke to the applicant, and they're happy to pay that to get it open. So with all those things being said, it meets our criteria, and we recommend that it be approved by the board.
Okay. Any discussion? Do we have anybody? Nobody? Oh,
I did have a question. Was input obtained from the different townships involved, like Lafayette, Anson, places like that? I'm not too familiar with all the roads there, but I assume that some of their input was gathered as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Some of the townships.
Yeah, I know from Lafayette, there was a gentleman, Larry Green was involved. I can't remember any specific town board members, but definitely people that lived in Lafayette had input.
And those considerations, I assume, played into everything.
Yeah, the Chippewa Valley ATV Council President, Paul Krummenauer, has been very good to work with. He and I, we have a good relationship, and he supports this route application process as well, so.
Thank you.
okay. So if you're going to address it, make sure this young lady's got to try to record things.
I'm sorry.
So just make sure you say Supervisor Mueller or whatever, and then that way she can help keep up with us. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. We will then call the vote. Those in favor, green button. Those opposed, press the red one. Ayes, nays.
Can I release?
You can release.
17 yes, 0 no.
Okay. Ordinance passes. Thank you. Okay. All right. So one of the things we have to maintain in the county boardroom is the blood flowing. So at this time, I would entertain that we take a 5-minute break, kind of stretch and shake out the bugs, and we'll jump back into this. Thank you.
Thank you.
When you get to my part, no one has ever told me I'm quiet.
Vicious suggestion.
You betcha. You bet. You just let me know. Okay? Congratulations, Al. If you can't hear, it's a good mic.
Oh, I saw you leaning back so far.
Don't worry about it. Bugs. Yeah. Go ahead.
I know.
That's like a switch.
No, that is odd for us.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is Brenda here?
No.
You dropped him off.
Wait, you know, for quarter acre size lawn, you know, your average, not city lot, you know, suburban lot, $550. I actually got out of the mowing part of it so much.
Usually it's not a big deal.
The live seeding detached.
We're on.
So you're gonna be able to, when you look out. There's a very fine line between profit and mowing, but you spend more time top of it, servicing, blades, gas, especially the price of gas now. It was raised.
We're ready.
But that's what really gets you in the door. And then
Ready when you are, Dean.
the landscape, the tree,
Right there.
seeding, that
Okay, if we can start heading back to the seats now.
I'm selling off half of the mowing business to a guy.
Selling cookies.
No.
We got a lot.
Quick to do this.
And I still do a little bit of it just to.
Brevity.
Up to you guys.
Well, I'm ready for.
Okay, we will move on to number 8, County Board Orientation, Phase 1. And present Randy Schultz, our County Administrator.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, congratulations, everybody, for getting elected onto the board. My name is Randy Schultz. I am the County Administrator. I've had the privilege to serve the people of Chippewa County and the board since 2018. I really mean that. I came here on purpose. I came from another county. I'll give you some of my background when we meet the new county board members. Tracy Bremis is my assistant, and she'll be setting up those meetings. As always, I have an open door, just like Todd's talked about. You guys will have my card. You have my cell number. Talk to any other county board member. You can call me that anytime. It doesn't matter, weekends, nights, your schedules aren't my schedules, so whatever works best for you, that's what I'm here to do, is to serve the county board. So anything you need, please feel free to contact me. As always, the other county board members, if you need to meet, please reach out, and we can always, have those meetings. So the first thing we're going to talk about is really the new committee assignments. It's quite the ordeal, if you will. I did bring a visual. So this is the sheet that will get filled out tomorrow from us. There's 77, I believe, different appointments, and there's crossovers between these appointments. So somebody's on one committee, sometimes they have to be on another committee, either by statute or ordinance. So it is a complicated and complex task that we have good people helping us get through this, with the chair, the vice chair, myself, Tracy, and our corp counsel. So we will work through that. But and Jackie, sorry, Jackie.
I don't
Get those elected
if I don't
officials
have to
right
be
away,
there
right?
tomorrow.
No. I apologize. So just looking at the standing committees, these are appointed by the county board chair. County board chair also appoints the committee's chair and vice chair. Statutory commissions and boards are appointed by the county administrator. In each committee, once you get into your committees, you will elect the chair and vice chair. You'll also set your meeting times for all the committees also. Then special committees is also appointed by the county board chair. And those are the ones that I showed you in brown. These are what we call, you're part of the committee, but it's not made up of the county board. It may be an organization we give money to, and maybe an organization that we're required to have a committee member at, or a county board member at, but there's a lot of moving parts when we do this. So the committee appointment process is conducted in a manner that attempts to equally distribute committee assignments while minimizing the number of quorums of other committees. So that's what you're trying to prevent when you put this together. And then with all the crossover members, it can get a little complicated. Before, if everybody had an average under 15 county board members, there was 5.1 committees assignments. And under this, with 21, there's 3.6. So hopefully we can kind of get you guys about the same numbers. Sometimes county board members just don't want as many appointments, and they indicate that. We appreciate you guys turning in your slips. We really go by that. I mean, we really try hard. I mean, if you got a number 1 on there, we're really going to try and put you on your number 1. Especially for me, because you're my boss. If you have a number 1, I'm really going to do everything we can to get you on that. Sometimes we can't, just because of things I talked about, but that's really the gist of trying to get everybody to have the same amount of meetings and to get everybody what they want. I mean, One thing I will say is over the years, it is good after, if you've been on a committee or to look at other committees. I always hear this from county board members that it's refreshing or it's new, or I didn't know this. So there's a lot of information. A couple things, we are purposely giving you an orientation that's a little more robust than it's been in the past. The reason for that, obviously we have a lot more county board members. I've been doing this for 20 some years roughly. Normally you get 2 or 3 county board members, not 10 or 11 out of 21. It is a lot of information. We understand that and we're throwing a lot at you. It is on purpose because you guys are gonna hit the ground running. There's gonna be a lot of stuff, but rest assured, if you need any information, we will give you the information. So if you ever have any questions, just let us know. So in order for the county board supervisors to be effective, engaged, it's important for you to attend and participate in your committee meetings. We need to hear what you have to say. We're not elected officials, you are. You hear from your people, and we need to know what your visions and what your goals are with any information that comes forward or any resolution ordinance. We need to hear from what the county board members want. If you're unable to attend a meeting, and this is important, under 15, it was probably more important, but it still is. You're expected to notify the county clerk or the respective chair at least 3 hours prior to the start of the meeting. And the reason for that is the county board chair can act in any committee as a voting member if there's not a quorum. Ex officio is what that's called. So we need time to get a hold of the chair and have the chair come in if we know there's not going to be a quorum. There's nothing worse than a county board member coming in for a meeting and there's not a quorum. Everybody hates that and they're all not going to be happy with you. So just please communicate. That's the biggest thing. We'll make sure we have a quorum. If we don't, we'll try and call that meeting off ahead of time. The county board chair and vice chair will meet with the county administrator and staff on April 20th. That's what we're doing tomorrow, and that will take most of the day to put these committees together. For success of the county board, you are the leaders. It all starts with you. Strategic plan, we went through a strategic plan in 2019, and the board approved that in 2020. Hard to believe it's been 2 years already. I believe it was early 2020 that got approved. So good communication is critical. Administrator, department heads, employees, county board supervisors, media. I came here 3 years ago with one rule: no surprises. I just mean that up and down the board. I don't want surprises from my department heads. I don't want to give my department head surprises. I don't want to surprise the board. I don't want the board to surprise me. What Todd talked about, please talk to us ahead of time. Our finance director will feel the same way. We want to give you the information you need. If you ask us questions in front of the board, we're not 100% what that is, we're not answering it, because whatever we say is going to stick. So we want to give you the correct information, so please reach out to us ahead of time. Sure, the county board supervisor's time is promptly managed. Committee chairs move the agenda along. Committee and department heads on details you want to include in committee reports. And that will be more with the chairs. You'll work with your department heads. Whatever we have on the agenda, there should be something in that packet relating to that agenda item. So you have information, and please come there prepared and read up. It really helps the committee just move quicker. If the supervisor has questions about the agenda item, contact the department head, and that can be the chair, that can be anybody on the committee. It doesn't just have to be the chair. If there's questions you see or that are coming up in the meeting, so again, we can answer questions. Increase county board supervisors' knowledge of the duties and responsibilities of the department heads and elected officials by being involved with more committees. That's what I talked about earlier. Spread yourself out over time. If you've been for a while, it's very interesting. Everything is complex, which can be mind-numbing sometimes, but there's a lot. We do a lot of things for the community, and I think it really helps to be in different committees. County board supervisors have access to county employee portal to review county board adopted policies. County board supervisors can use the county website for accessing all other relevant information, agendas, minutes, code of ordinance. We have our budgets out there. We have our audits out there. It's more information than I've ever seen on a county website in my life. So it is all out there. It may take some time to navigate through it, or you may have to reach out to one of us, Tracy, myself, whoever, department head, to figure it out a little bit, but there's a lot of information out there, and that's just in our efforts to be transparent in everything we do. So responsibility of county administrator and department heads to ensure that time county board supervisors spend at the committee meetings is used effectively and constructively. Department heads must present concise, accurate, specific, and understandable information to their respective policy committees, so decisions can be made in a timely and confident manner. So this is something we do struggle with. How much information do we give? We want to give you enough information to make informed decisions from all sides. We should not be biased on anything you receive. It should be facts and it should be information, but we can overwhelm people. I mean, I know budgets really, really well over 20 years. I talk to Lori and I feel like I don't know anything about the budget sometimes. When you're talking to a professional, especially an accountant or a lawyer, you know, there's just a higher level of understanding in that. So we will always try and give you information. If you feel like you're not getting something, or if you just don't feel like you have enough information, again, reach out to us and we'll try to provide that. But that is something, you'll hear that across the board and across counties, that department heads and administrators always struggle with, you know, make sure we're giving enough information, but we don't want to overwhelm you. County ministerials will review the draft agendas to ensure committee meetings are focused on policy issues. Department heads are meeting the timely management objectives of the committee. Again, that's just to make sure we're moving things along quickly. Obviously, this is a really long meeting, and we try to prevent them, especially at the committee meeting where a lot of stuff is hashed out at the committee meeting. County board supervisors will focus on policy needs of the county, listen to ideas and address the concerns of the county board supervisors in a timely manner. Talked a lot about that. Be honest, transparent with county board supervisors. And if you ever feel like someone's not being honest to you or you're not getting information, reach out to me, because we will make sure that that is happening. Responsibility of the county administrator and department heads continuing here. So county administrator, department heads should come to the meetings. We'll be focused on the strategic plan. That is what our the county board put together. It's behind here in the room. We put it in all our budget material. So that is what our overall goal is, because that was provided to us by the county board. Organized with concise information, prepared to provide supervisors with documentation and outlines the program options and recommendations. You will receive a recommendation from every department head. That's why you pay them. You don't have to agree with them, and that's fine. And at the end of the day, when you guys make the decision, that's the direction the county board or the committee or the department head's going, our employees are going, we're going in that direction. So if we agree with it or not, it does not matter. That's, once you make the decision, that's the way it goes. What I've seen over my career is sometimes county boards get stuck. There'll be a controversial decision made and it may just barely pass by 1 or 2 votes, and people want to kind of hold that against each other. Please don't do that. Move on. I mean, because we're going full bore. Don't hold that against our employees. They're going to do what the county board has approved, or a committee. We'll look at long-term policy implications and talk about those. County administrative departments will focus recommendations based on the strategic plan of the county board, the department mission statement, and the impact on operation costs and department capacity. So we'll talk about that with everything that comes in front of the committees and the county board. If there's something we know it's just not going to work, or we just don't have the staff to do it, or kind of, you know, lay out what's going to happen in 5 years, because the county's going on and on and on. So we'll always look out to the future. So responsibility of elected officials. So elected department heads include the county clerk, register of deeds, treasurer, clerk of courts, coroner, and sheriff. They stagger 4-year terms. Every 3 of them get elected every 2 years, but it's for 4-year terms. I treat I treat elected officials just like department heads. I don't treat them any differently. Give them all the information all my department heads get. We expect, and expectations I think from the public is that we have working department heads, and we do. So they are treated exactly the same as I treat any department heads. The only thing is I don't supervise them. But they get all the information. We have a really good working relationship with all the elected officials. So very, very blessed to have the elected officials we have. So the county board should expect from full-time elected officials act in a professional manner, follow county policies, follow statutory responsibilities of the elected position, be part of the county team that advances programs and policies that are best interests of the citizen of Chippewa County, be available to address concerns and questions of the county board. And we have that here, so we're very, very lucky. So responsibilities of county administrator. The administrator's role is to run the day-to-day operations of the county under policies adopted by the county board. We have a $100 million budget. We have 420 employees, and I have a lot of help. I have department heads, I have accountants, I have a full HR department, managers, and all our employees. We all have to work together to get our mission completed. Every position in this county matters. Every position is complex. I mean, any position you could go up and talk to, you couldn't do it unless you had some experience or you had some training. It's amazed me over the years, because I'll get into it when we meet one-on-one, but I've had a lot of positions in the county, and the complexity of each one is a lot. So we have a lot of great employees working for Chippewa County. With the county board supervisors to develop policies, the administrator may discuss problems, provide recommendation, propose new plans, or discuss issues that affect the community and its residents. Those recommendations will be considered with the county's overall strategic plan. Again, administrator does not work at the direction of a single county board supervisor, only by actions taken by a committee or the full board. And sometimes that can be a concern from some county board members. You want to come to me, you see a problem, which I will agree with or not agree with maybe at the time, but unless the committee or a county board has given me direction, I don't take direction directly from any individual county board member. That doesn't mean that if you want something, a policy passed or an ordinance or resolution, I'll work with you to tell you how to get that through, what committee to bring it to. Anything that you want done, I'll help facilitate that, but I don't take direct orders, if you will, from any individual county board members, because you can imagine what that'd be like. I'd be going in 20 different directions. So I will say that, that's not what the committee decided, or that's not what the county boards decided. I don't have that direction. If you want that direction, this is how you get it, and then talk you through that process. Ensure that laws and policies approved by the county board are enforced throughout the county. Provide county board supervisors with continual updates on items between meetings as appropriate. Sometimes things will just happen. During COVID, it was insane, I'm sure, just like it was in your own, wherever you guys worked or whatever you're doing during that time. And we had to make sure the lines of communication were wide open, and they constantly change. So there's a lot of communication, but things may come up between county board meetings that I have to give you information, or there might be breaking news. There's different things that could happen. Just make sure, and Todd will talk about this on Thursday, just don't respond to everybody, because that's considered a walking quorum, and we don't want that. So, but we'll always put that in an email. If it comes from the county clerk, myself, Tracy, whoever it comes from, will remind you not to hit reply all. So maintain the county board focus on the strategic plan of the county. Again, you guys can ask me questions anytime, so you don't have to wait till the end. I know some things pop up, so feel free to do that. So responsibilities continuing, provide county board supervisors the opportunity to future training, be accessible and provide accurate information to the county board supervisor. Encourage supervisors to contact the county administrator's office when you have questions. Have county board supervisors understand the importance and value of following adopted county policies and procedures. Ensure that information provided to the county board is related to both immediate issues and long-term programs, and is understandable and organized. After a policy decision is made by the county board, the county administrator works with staff to successfully implement the decision of the county board. And I've talked a lot about that, but I think it's important to reiterate there. Seek feedback from residents and members of the business community to address and solve problems. Before COVID hit, I got out a lot more than I currently do. You hear a lot from your constituents. So if you're hearing something, you got concerns, please let me know, and there's things we can address, we'll definitely address them, obviously. Continuing to be directly involved and responsible for oversight of performance and administration of the economic development activities of the county. One of the reasons I came here is because of that sentence right there. I love economic development. It's something I was not able to do in my previous position, and here it is it's not normal county business, if you will. County business is methodical, government business moves on and on. Economic development is exciting. There's things that happen, There's meetings that happen in 2 days. Sometimes my staff, I'm sure, would wish it didn't because they have to put a lot of work in, but it's exciting to see something start from nothing and end up like it is in the Lake Wissota Business Park. And hearing the concept of that and then getting that work through is exciting for me personally. So, and Chippewa County's done an excellent job in that area. The diversity in our economics is outstanding, and it does. I think someone, maybe Dean said that, or Supervisor Felix, and said it earlier. That's what carries Chippewa through hard times: the diversity of the economy. Prepare the annual budget, submit a recommendation to the county board for approval, and implement it once adopted. The budget is not mine. It is our budget. So I will listen and take into account everything you bring forward. I'll be at every committee meeting when the budgets come through. I'll be part of that. I do, once the committees get through with the budgets, it does come to me and I gotta make the whole budget work. Because obviously, a lot of times we get it from the departments, through the committees, and it's not balanced, obviously, and we have to have a balanced budget. As everybody kind of knows, Lori will be talking about that in a little bit. But then I submit that back through the executive committee, to the county board, and you guys have the final say on the budget. You can make motions at the end. You can decide what you want to do with that, with the funds. That is your biggest policy mechanism, is budget, because that's wherever your money goes, that's what you're doing. That's where your work goes. So I'll do things like solicit bids for contractors, select and recommend appropriate individuals or organizations to perform work, investigate citizen complaints and problems within the organization, recommend necessary changes to the county board. Again, I've seen this over the years. Sometimes county board members, and understandably, will hear something or a complaint about an employee or a department and want to do something about it. Your due is to contact me. It's my job. We have a full HR department. You do not want to get into personnel. I did personnel for 7 years. I don't want to get into personnel. So that's something you have to do, but that is an area county board members can get themselves in a little hot water, because if you're involved, you're going to get, if there's any litigation, you're going to get pulled into it. Do not want to do that. So please, if you hear anything, contact me and we'll take the necessary steps to take care of whatever the issue is. Supervise and evaluate the annual performance of all county department heads, department administration staff, and other employees. Work to successfully achieve the annual goal objectives established by the county administrator as defined in the executive committee. Executive committee, who you vote on today, set my goals. So we'll go through those a little later. But those are my goals, and that's what I'll spend a lot of my time towards. So county board relationship with county administrator. At any time, county board supervisors should be able to access and discuss any issues they are concerned about with the county administrator. County administrator should be able to do the same with county supervisors. I won't call you in the middle of the night because that's appropriate, but you can call me. On issues related to employee performance, personnel matters, county board supervisors should bring those to the attention of the county administrator to address and or investigate. Again, I just kind of talked through that. Understand the importance of confidentiality between the county administrator and the county board supervisor. I will not share conversations that you have with me with other county board members, with other staff. That's between us. And you can call me and talk to me about whatever you feel like you need to. So responsibilities of the county board. Pay attention to the Wisconsin open meeting law. Again, we'll talk more about that moving forward. County board supervisors need to be careful about discussing committee matters with other county board supervisors outside the posted meetings. Responsibility and time commitment of the county board chair, ex officio of all county committees. Maintain relationships with 20 other county board supervisors. Committee chairs will need to manage the time of committee meetings. To assist the county board and committee chairs, please read and review agenda items, information before the regular scheduled meeting. If you have any questions, again, seems to feel like a broken record, but it's so important to contact us ahead. If you have questions at the county board or committee meeting, ask it at the meeting. Ask questions or after a decision has been made is usually too late. And we do see that from time to time. There will be something that will come through. And for whatever reason, the questions weren't answered. The county board takes a vote. We're going in that direction and we hear questions afterwards. So obviously we want to try to address all those ahead of time. So continue responsibility of the county board. Use technology to stay updated and informed on issues related to your committee assignments, as well as other county issues. Obviously, you all have an iPad, and I know Andy's been able to meet with you and go through some of that stuff, but feel free to reach out for additional training if you need it. Sorry about that. Electronic agenda management software allows for better access to all agenda material. Please contact County Administrator's Office if you have any questions or concerns about the service policy or County Board Committee agenda items. You can reach out. Tracy's has a lot of knowledge and has been here for quite a while, so she can help you navigate some of the systems and some of the things we do too. So feel free to reach out to her. So the ultimate authority of all policy development and implementation is county board or county-wide issues. And committee is for issues pertaining to specific departments. We do have policies that are only within certain departments, and those will only go to that department. If it's a policy or decision that needs to come to the full board, then we'll bring that to the full board. Our HR policy is probably one of the best examples. All those, that touches everybody in the county, and those always come to the full board. County board, or the county administrator and department heads can provide information, but the county board supervisors are the ones that make the policy decisions. Again, you're elected, I'm not. You listen to your constituents, you bring that information forward, and then we work through whatever the decision of the county board is at the end of the day. Chippewa County is a great place to live and work. I cannot say that enough. Chippewa County provides many services other counties do not. Dedicated, hardworking employees, positive, high morale starts at the top. And everything does start with you guys. Somebody hears a negative comment in a different department, maybe one county board member, that's all they hear. They can hear 10 praises from everybody, but one negative comment will bring that whole department down. So if you do have concerns, and there are things that we have to address and deal with, I mean, I've been, like I said, doing this for a long time, we will address and deal with any issue that comes up. But saying it to that particular person or maybe even the department head sometimes, it can really bring their morale down. So we really want to kind of protect that part of it. But again, everything will be addressed if you bring something forward. So that's all I have for this presentation. If you have any questions at this time? So I know it's a lot. And we'll set up meetings, Tracy will set up meetings with all the new county board members moving forward here. So I'm sorry.
Yep, go ahead.
Next presentation, sorry, Chair. So county operational update. This is a presentation I've never given before in all the years of doing this type of job. And the reason for it, again, is because we do have so many new members. And I'll go through, these are kind of the things I'm going to hit. It's going to go pretty darn quick here, but I've talked about some of them already. Here's that strategic plan. So it was adopted on 1/14/2020. And then, of course, COVID hit 3 months later. So everything was kind of crazy, but put a lot of work into this, had the community involved in this, came up with a vision statement and a mission statement, which the previous strategic plan did not have. So this is really what we go off of. When you'll see budget items from your department heads, you'll see resolutions, they'll mention the strategic plan and being part of that. So they really do look at that. One of the first things I did when I got here was ask, the old strategic plan, is it being used? Are we looking at it? And I was amazed by how much the department heads go by that. So this is really important, and it's took a lot of work to get there. So this is the organizational chart. Again, citizens are number one and on top. Then from there, if you go to the left, the county elected officials, and I talked about those earlier. Those are the 6. The next one's kind of interesting. It's called state employees, elected officials. So these are our judges. Like Judge Isaacson that was here, he's actually a state employee paid by the state, but obviously elected by the local electors. District attorneys the same way. And then there's this drop down below the judges that's called register or probate. They're actually a county employee, but appointed by the judges. So you want to talk about some interesting relationships if you have problems in those areas. But we have great people working. So I've never had a problem with that. But it is just a unique relationship. And then if you look over, moving to our right, the county board chair, and then the county board as policymakers. And then the executive committee, which we talked about. My eyes are not doing well right now. And then if you look below that, it just has standing and statutory committees, kind of runs those all under. And then you can see the county administrator, day-to-day operations. And then you kind of see the one that goes way out to the right and comes back around. The reason for that is Tracy's position actually facilitates and helps the county board chair also. So if the county board chair needs help with the calendar or scheduling, putting letters out, information, that kind of thing, Tracy does that with the county board chair. And then if you go below that, that is the departments. Those are the departments that are within the county. And you will see even the drop down below that is Department of Administration. It took me a little while to wrap my head around that when I first got here, because it was not the mechanism from where I came from. But really, those are departments that affect and touch every other department. And our purpose in DOA is to bring resources available, bring things. For the departments to be able to operate at a high level, we need to bring resources to them. Obviously, we'd like to bring more, but we have budgets and we have all those types of issues and concerns. So, but we are a resource for all the other departments. You can see what's underneath there, IT. The Criminal Justice Service Division, you're going to hear more about, but that is something that we want to set aside from any other department because it works in so many departments. It really works with all the judicial, sheriff's department, city, state. Rose Byers, the one that is the department head there and does an excellent job. Obviously, facility and parks, finance, human resources, and corp counsel, which I said, all those touch all the other departments. So department descriptions, you'll find these out on the website. Again, please make yourself familiar with that. You'll see some of these at the committee meeting with the description, the documents that shows the mission, goals, organizational charts. They will be out here, but you may see some of those as we go through with your committees as they meet. I did ask every department to send me what they're going to present to you because I knew we were going to send you guys a lot of information. I didn't want to duplicate anything, but I didn't want to miss anything either. So you will at your first meeting in the month typically. There are some departments that have multiple divisions reporting to the board or the committee, so they may have to stagger those. So update on COVID-19. This kind of gives me the shakes reading this. So this was amazing. First of all, what our employees did, what the county board stepped up and allowed us to do. We never stopped giving service to the community. We continued that. It looked different. It looked really different for a while, but I didn't get any complaints that we weren't answering phones or we weren't getting back to people. I don't know if you had to deal with some other organizations that's not a county, but above the county. We had a hard time getting a hold of some state and federal people for months. We never used working from home as an excuse because it wasn't an excuse. You still had to deliver for customer service. So our employees really stepped up and did a great job. So kind of the dates, March 16, 2020, County Board approved Resolution 1420, resolution to provide county administrator, county board chair, emergency administrative flexibility to address COVID-19. This really was about being able to react quick enough because things were happening so quickly. We would literally, and public health and works for the county, right? So they're the ones putting out the information about COVID-19, especially when it first started. We literally would have an hour and a half meeting with public health, and we'd go back, start putting letters together, information for the county board, for our employees, get a call from Angie, our public health director, and say, changed. So it was really insane. So we needed the ability to be flexible, and really what that boiled down to was allowing people to work remotely, being able to close the facility or certain departments if we had to. We did have times where we just didn't have enough people in that department. They still could email and contact. We usually had somebody available. But there was times where we actually physically had to close the door because we couldn't have somebody in that one-on-one as they walked into the department. So that was really helpful. So this emergency allowed the county administrator, county board chair remain in effect until it rescinds the formal action of the county board. So that's something the new board will probably want to look at. Obviously, I'll talk to the chair about that, and we've talked about this before the reorg, before the last election. So we'll probably bring something forward with that. So a link to the March 16th is in this. You can just click on that and you'll be able to go to that agenda. Also on March 16th, 2020, a public health emergency was proclaimed, and the county board chair exercised emergency powers permitted under state statute, and you can see them there. On April 21st, the county board approved resolution 1520 and ratified the public health emergency proclamation. So this can happen not just in a pandemic. It happened with a tornado. We had a tornado in Wheaton. County board chair declared an emergency, and then the county board actually has to ratify that to make that official. But again, it's to have us be able to react to the emergency and then have the county board say if we should continue moving that forward or not. And originally, so we have a link on the county board minutes from April 12th, 2020 is in there too. But really the reason we did this is we had some PPE equipment here that this had to be implemented before we could use it. And it was because it was technically out of date, but the feds allowed us to use it. It was masks, gloves, things that emergency management had it for a few years, but so we were able to utilize that. And then in the beginning, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but the routes to recovery money, some were saying it was tied to if we had this declaration or if we didn't. Nobody knew because again, everything was crazy. It ended up at the end of the day, we don't have to have an emergency declaration in order to receive those funds. But so that was kind of some of the things that were going on when COVID hit in March. So here's the county administrator's performance goals. This is what was set from the executive committee for 2022. COVID-19 emergency, obviously the declaration, review that, something that is talked about. Economic development, continue to review, analyze, and implement business park feasibility study that was adopted by county board in March 2020. I'll talk about that a little more as we move forward. And then budget, these are probably the three biggest areas in our budget. The biggest expenditure lately, probably over the last 3 years, has been the out-of-home placements. I'm sure you guys have heard this. We started a campaign against meth because meth was so rapid and still is, unfortunate. But that's really affected, our sheriff's department, obviously, our DHS, our corp council, taking a lot of kids out of home placements and putting them in some really high-end placements out of state, especially. So that's kind of been a big factor during the whole meth issue. But I think this year we're over, but not as bad as we were the previous year. So hopefully we're making some headway there. I think this was talked about earlier too, the long-range plan for sustainability of highway operations. There's a lot of money flowing into highway right now. We'll talk about ARPA, obviously, as we move forward. But the county board wants to put about $7.5 million in that. You guys will make that final decision at some point out of our $12.5 we received for ARPA. There's also a federal bill that you heard about, and that we're still trying to figure some of those fundings out. Right now it's competitive, and we're very fortunate to have an in-house engineer that's able to get us ahead of the game. Brian and his staff were able to go after the first round of money, which a lot of counties would not be able to do that unless they had the staff that Brian currently does. So that was a good thing. But there will be a time, obviously, when that kind of runs through, and then we got to determine how we're going to sustain those highways. So the goal or the hope is in the next 5 years to get that, get us sustainable, get us back to where we're supposed to be, and then how do we sustain that moving forward will be the big question. Continue to review, analyze, implement employee benefits that are both cost-effective, support recruitment and retention efforts of the county. Obviously, every place you talk about retention and recruitment's the biggest issue. Trying to get employees. We have very competitive counties south of us, the city. They just pay more money. It's hard for us to be able to keep up with that. So we've really focused on employee engagement, listening to our employees, flexible work schedules, different things that will want employees to work here. We went to self-funded health insurance, which I believe I did that for years and years, and we didn't have that when I got here. It opens up a lot more avenues to save money and to bring better services to the employees. So I'm very excited about that. This year is the first year. January is when we went to it. So you hear things we'll talk about on-site, near-site clinics, steering employees to good providers at a lower cost. So we'll be able to start doing some of that, and I'm excited about that. I think there'll be cost savings, and it'll improve our employees' health insurance too. COVID stimulus allocations, obviously talked about that. County board orientation, we knew when we put this, when we were talking about the or for my goals, that we were gonna have a high turnover. Again, very unusual to see a county board with this many new members. So we knew we had to come up with a pretty robust orientation. I understand it's a lot of information, a lot of time, but I think you'll appreciate it as we move forward. And then these are some of the things we're dealing with. National opioid litigation. We were involved in that. Chippewa County is going to get about $1.96 million over 18 years. Still not completely ironed out with that. But we worked really close. WCHA, Wisconsin County Association, worked really close with the state, get that funding through, and come up with a mechanism where it would come to each county. So you'll hear more about that. Public firearm range, I'm sure you probably heard that in the paper and news, so we're working through that. Right now, we're waiting for that last bullet point there, Patriot Outdoors, to give the second range assessment. That will come directly back to the board because the board made the decisions on a lot of this, so we don't have to, the time frame of that, we'll bring that back. I think the May 17th is the plan. Doesn't show that on there, but on your presentation it does, is when it'll be back to the county board. That'll be a full-blown, you'll have the full history, you'll know everything that's gone on. You'll get information from our legal counsel, you get it from the sheriff's department, get it from facilities. You'll have a complete view of what happened and some of the options moving forward. Obviously a big subject matter for the county. Radio tower project, this started many years ago, 2013 or 14 was going on. It was to update our towers, our radio, our connections with emergency, obviously. You can see the different sites that have been utilized through this. You'll see the budget throughout this. We did discover when we did bonding that if you do over $5 million in bonding, you have to spend that in 2 years. So we brought back a resolution to the county board to move some of the, because again, unfortunately COVID hit and we couldn't get stuff and it was kind of a nightmare. So we brought a resolution back exchanging really the bond funds to give it to highway so that you could utilize it. And then we took the sales tax back from highway and put it in sales tax. And then you can decide what you want to do that moving forward. Chippewa County is in the final stage of the project. I'd like to give you a deadline and a date when that's going to be completed, but this for how these big projects work. Cornell is redoing their tower, their water tower, and now that's going to delay us because we're putting an antenna on the water tower. So now they got to get down to the water tower before we can put the antenna on it. Obviously wasn't planned or when this first started. So hopefully by the end of, I'm not going to, but before the year is over, that's just how this project's been. It's just gone on and on.
Soon.
Yeah. Then Farm Tech Days, this is exciting. So Resolution 5221 was approved by the county board in December 2021 to host Farm Tech Days, Technology Days. It was last held in Chippewa County in 2004. It was in Eau Claire, I believe, the year before, last year. It's a 3-day show. There's between 20 and 30,000 attendants. I have never dealt with Farm Tech Days. I did reach out to a friend of mine that's a highway commissioner in Marathon County because they had it the year after I was leaving there. And I said, did they really get 20 to 30,000? And he said, yeah. He said, don't underestimate it. He said, we underestimated and the traffic was a nightmare. So he gave us some tips on dealing with that. So pretty excited about this coming to the county. Needs 120 acres. The event's 60 for tent city and 60 for parking. Chippewa County did approve in that resolution to seed $20,000. That's to get the ball rolling, but that will come back to the county at the end. Highway Department, Sheriff's Department obviously will incur expenses. Those will get reimbursed back to the county. Charlie Walker, you'll hear from him in the future. Charlie is the director of Chippewa County Economic Development, and he's a whirlwind of energy. He does a lot for us. He gets a lot of stuff out in Lake Wissota Business Park. He's highly effective of getting committees or companies to stay here and to invest here. But he did volunteer to work with that, get some, put the volunteers together. There's a lot of work to it. From my understanding, they have the executive committee together and they're putting out applications to see what farm wants to host the event. So they'll go through that. Country Jam, this was something that's been in Eau Claire County for years and years. They did have a meeting with us saying that they bought some property on Highway T. By last information I've received that I know is that it sounds like the city of Eau Claire is going to annex this property. So we're probably not going to have as big of role in this as we would in the past. But my understanding is they're going to get annexed into Eau Claire, the city of Eau Claire. So they'll have to deal with a lot of that. We'll still have to do some emergency management stuff, but it won't be as much as what we had to do with Rockfest. Because if Country Jam and Rockfest are on the same weekend, that makes us very thin, especially in our law enforcement area. New economic development policy. This sounds simple, but there were probably, and Todd knows better than I do, because Todd did a lot of work on this, and our planning and zoning director, Doug Clary, did a lot of work on this, but there was, 10 to 15 different resolutions, policies, kind of laying out there over the years since the business park kind of got put in place. They had to take all that, put it in one document, because it was very confusing. Obviously, it was confusing to people that were coming in and looking for information about our business park. So now we have one document. They come in, they ask, we can hand them that document, has application in there. We worked with Charlie Walker, obviously, to get all that done. So that doesn't sound like a big deal, but this was a really big deal. And hopefully in the future, if we are able to do another industrial park, we can carry that through to that industrial park. And that's kind of the next slide, potential new business park. So it kind of talks through the process we went through in order to get a study done. The county board allocated $90,000 to do that. Janet Addy, a president and CEO of Addy Advantage, came in and did the study. Was able to get a $25,000 grant. And obviously the money was nice, the EDA grant, but one thing it did is it qualified us for any future business park that we qualify. It gives us points essentially to qualify for any infrastructure. So it will allow us to work with North Central Region Planning Commission, or not North Region, North Central, thank you, that's my old one. Sorry, West Central. And for the applications for that. So that opens up that window, which is very important if we're looking to move forward. So we did do this in two phases. The first phase was to decide if there was a need. So the county board got the report on that. They decided there was a need. And then Addy went out and did this phase two, which is really looking at particular areas, and brought that back to the county board with recommendations. The ED work group, which is part of the economic development mechanism that we use at staff internally, the chair of economic development, and then Charlie Walker and the city planner for the city of Chippewa Falls. We meet and work through this stuff. So there is stuff that's already come from economic development committee, looking at possibly the next area for the new business park. So we'll eventually bring that back to the county board, and you guys will have to make a decision on what you want to do with that. Very exciting for me. Chippewa County Housing Authority. This is something that people get confused about. They hear about the Housing Authority. They don't really know how it works. So the approved resolution 8871, so it's been several years ago, and we do put one county board supervisor towards that. And the Housing Authority is an independent quasi-government agency, and staff are employees of the Housing Authority and not the county, but they are housed in the county, and that's why it's quasi-private, public, working together. They have space that we make available for them in our building. So Chippewa County does provide some services and benefits to the Housing Authority per an MOU. Housing Authority provides a variety of housing resources and services for low and moderate income households in Chippewa County. All programs are income-based. Income limits vary by program. So there's a revolving loan fund within the county of $3 million, and there's a regional one up to $7.4 million. And they also are the authority to serve the community development block grants. that the county receives. So this was really an effort, and we're the host county. The state a few years ago decided that they didn't want to deal with 72 housing authorities. So they decided consortiums, if you guys, that was a really buzz term a few years ago. It's not as much anymore, but so they put a consortium together, so now they only have to deal with 10 instead of 72. We are the host county for that. So this is some funding for outside agencies. You know, I hear this a lot, what's mandated, non-mandated, where do we give our money outside agencies? So this is kind of the list of them. One of them that I forgot to add and I put on here is UW Extension. They've gone through a lot of changes over the years, but technically they're not a county mandated service. We have a contract with them to provide service with some of their educators. And we put about $236,000 in levy in for the extension. So these are what the different things on. We just talked about the Economic Development Corporation. We do put $195,000 towards that for the budget each year. They do a lot of work for us. Like I said, most counties would dream of having an economic development organization like Chippewa County has. So Charlie's done a lot of work. His staff does a lot of work. They do a lot of good things for us. Chippewa County Tourism Council. This is the Chippewa Falls Chamber of Commerce. Tourism Division is contracted by the city of Chippewa Falls, Village of Lake Hallie, Chippewa County, coordinate sales and marketing efforts throughout the Chippewa County. We allocate $32,270 in 2022 for the budget for them. We also have a county board, a chair appoints one county board supervisor to serve on the council. Chippewa Valley Innovation Center, if you haven't heard about this was fascinating to me when I got here. So this started back many, many years. I don't know if I even have the year on here, but what it is it's an incubation center that entrepreneurs can get space. So their rent, I don't know how it all works, but they start on very low rent and then it goes up over the years. But it's really to help people start businesses. Some of the success stories through that business is amazing. We do provide $10,000 in annual funding, and then we did contribute $50,000 to provide loans, and that's run through Economic Development Corporation. They're currently trying to relocate this. This building's probably end of life. Been there a long time. We did go and get a grant, and or went after a grant, and it was with the city of Chippewa, or city of Eau Claire, county of Eau Claire, and then Chippewa was the county of Eau Claire, or was it just the city? I can't remember. I'm sorry. It's getting late. Anyways, we went after a grant to try and get an 80-20 split, where the federal government would pay 80%, and then we'd split that between it was the city, so it was just the city, us, and then CVIC would put in money. And that we didn't get it. So they are re-looking at that. Obviously, the cost of everything's gone up, but there's an opportunity to look at a 50-50 match. So the regional planning's looking into getting updated numbers, and we'll probably bring that back to the county at some point so you can make decisions on that. We have the chair also appoints one citizen member to this, usually a banking expertise to the CVIC Loan Committee pool. So the regional airport, I didn't know this until I got here. I graduated from UW Eau Claire, so you'd think I would know some of this stuff over the years, but did not know this. Chippewa Valley Regional Airport is between Chippewa County and Eau Claire County. We do provide funding for that. You can see that about 3/4 of the way through. For 2022, we give $131,574. That's through sales tax, and that can only be used for debt service or capital projects. They are going through their service provider gave them a notice that they're not going to provide service, and they are currently going out for bids to see if they can find another service provider. I talked to Charity, she's the airport director, and in May they're supposed to, last week in May, second or last week in May, they're going to get those results back. Northern Wisconsin State Fair, I found this interesting too. We do contribute $54,000 plus in-kind services in 2022 via the annual budget. And Extension also does a lot of work, obviously, with the fair, but we do not actually give money for the fair. We have a contract with them, and it's really for the things that are listed below. Their Chippewa County Junior Fair, 4-H programs, District 1, Holstein Show, Chippewa County Clean Sweep, Chippewa County Tree Conservation Program, and then the Sheriff's Department and Jail for services and training. They utilize that a lot. So that's really what it's used for. It's not to put on the fair, but everybody thinks that. But 4-H obviously does, does children's fair there. This is ITBEC. This is Northwest ITBEC, Wisconsin Counties Association, sponsors association that provides participation counties within the region, a mechanism to identify and formulate regional goals, strategies leading to improvements in tourism, economic development, and exporting. So this really what it does to me, what I've come to understand is this helps us give us a regional foothold with all these counties in advertising and tourism and trying to develop relationships. We give $3,000 to that, and there's a county board member that serves on that. So the Wisconsin County Association, you heard me say that several times. WCA is an association of county governments assembled for the purpose of representing counties, and it kind of lists, everything we do. We currently give our membership $8,712. I don't think that's gone up in 20 years. That's kind of what it's been stuck at. They have a lot of other programs that help pay for the things they do, but they really are kind of our way into politicians at Madison level and even the federal level. We really, we don't give money, so it's hard for some of them to want to listen to us, but they have really good relationships down in Madison. They have experts in many different fields, transportation, DHS, and about anything you can imagine, and they do a really good job of getting a voice for the counties, which we otherwise wouldn't have. WestCap, I didn't know what WestCap was before I came here. WestCap's mission is to take action against poverty by developing social and economic assets of low-income families in their communities, and by working to create more just and sustainable society. So it serves Barron, Chippewa, Dunn. You can see the counties it serves. We contribute about $4,000 through our budget. Through Department of Human Services manages the contract for administration for that. Wisconsin Regional Planning, this is what I tried spitting out before, I did a poor job about. So they kind of see their goal is to assist units of government in planning for physical, social, and economic development needs of the region, counties included in the region, and mentions them. They really help you get through these grants. I mean, these federal grants are insane, honestly. When I did that little grant, that $25,000 grant, I had to go on a website to get a password for another website. So you can imagine what it is trying to report this stuff. We've got a crash course with ARPA. Lori's been doing a lot with that. So without them, I don't think it'd even pay to go after some of these grants because there's no way you'd know all the ins and outs of them. So they do a really good job with that. We do provide funding for them of $40,102, which is a pretty good hunk of change. And if we ever did want to get out of that, there's something special with them. The other organizations, essentially, you guys would either do it through the budget process or have a resolution to withdraw. This actually makes us go through some other hoops if we decide to do that. It says if Chippewa County decided to not contribute to West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning, we would need to adopt 2 complementary resolutions by July 1st that year. So that's just a little something. All right, I talked about as fast as I can possibly talk. Any questions, comments? No, it's a lot, so. Thanks, Buck. I appreciate your time. I know it's a lot. I'll turn it back over to the chair.
Okay, we're not trying to do a marathon here, so I'm looking at the clock. It's already 9:30, and I don't want to short Lori and Jackie from their presentation. So what I would ask at this time is to seek a motion to move these 2 reports, Finance Division and Jackie Sadler's County's Clerk report to the April 21st training meeting so that we can adjourn. So I would seek that motion at this time.
Supervisor Bergeron would make that motion.
Is there a second?
Supervisor Erickson. All of them.
Okay.
Everybody, the whole board.
All right. And then any agenda items for future consideration? Oh, excuse me. We're going ahead of ourselves here. You can see I'm trying to get us out of here quick. So those in favor, aye, or push the green button.
I'm not ready. Enter it.
Okay, she's entering it quickly.
Yes.
Trying to move this as fast as we can.
Okay, vote.
Okay, now we can vote. Push the green if you approve, red if you disagree.
Should say that.
All right. No.
Okay.
Better all- 17.
Oh, pass. Agenda items for future consideration, due to the time factor. If you do have something that comes up, feel free to get a hold of me, Tracy, to pass it to me so that we get stuff on here. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Supervisor Tudour makes a motion.
Supervisor Erickson will second that.
Okay, Tudelberg made the motion and Erickson second. We can do voice.
Just do.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hey, at your own risk.
You can move the desk up. Ooh. Before everyone leaves, in your green, yellow, or manila folder, there was a survey. It's like a bright colored sheet of paper. If you can bring that back on Thursday, I have to send that to WCA. But
Congratulations on your win. All the elections.
I don't.
Children's left.